Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another social emotional workshop where we are with Joe and Teresa from Care of Southeast Michigan. And today we are going to be talking about quality me time. Welcome back, Joe and Teresa. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am here to help you maybe find some time if you don't already do that, and why it is important to take care of yourself and schedule that time for yourself. Um, so, this is just a picture of our brain on an everyday basis versus a high stress brain. So what's happening there, all that black coloring in is just the blood that's in your brain. And when you're in a high stress situation, that part of your brain called the limbic system that helps your heart beat and your lungs continue to breathe for you, that gets flooded with, the blood that's in your brain so that, you know, it keeps you functioning when there's a high stress situation. And then what happens is you also get a cortisol dump in your brain. Not cortisol, but cortisol, which is a stress chemical. And that is there, it's all hardwired into our brains so that we can either freeze or fight or run if we need to, and keep our bodies functioning well during that process. So you're not even really thinking, you're just reacting to your surroundings. And so, besides cortisol, which actually takes about 15 or 20 minutes to dissipate out of your brain. And that's why they tell people to walk away when they're angry. But actually, it takes about 3 weeks for all those chemicals, stress chemicals, which would include cortisol and adrenaline and glucosol to get out of your system. And so people who are in a constant state of stress, I think of those people like right now, like in Palestine or Israel, they're constant, or Yemeni people, it's constant state of stress for them with bombings and what it must be doing to their brains and their bodies to have to deal with that. It can make a lot of changes in your body. And, when we're stressed out, we don't always feel that good. Our blood sugar rises, our heart speeds up, blood pressure increases. You get those chemicals in your body that I mentioned. They attach to, your heart and your liver. And, your breathing gets shallow and fast, and the blood's diverted in your body to your extremities in case you have to run or you have to fight. And so when that happens, your digestion also slows down, and extra insulin is released in your body. And so, like I said, if you're in a typical situation day by day, and you occasionally have a eustress situation. Eustress is good stress, like when you have to plan a vacation, or if you are on a deadline to get work done, or holidays are coming up. That stress that just keeps us organized and on track. But distress, the kind that people have to deal with when they're in danger, or facing violence from other people, or in their house or outside of their house, or just food scarcity, any kind of those stress situations like that. If you have no escape from it, then what happens is those chemicals actually start attacking your body. They make remember I said that sometimes those stress chemicals can attach to your liver, to your heart. They could start tearing away at that tissue, wearing it away. And also it lowers your immune system so that your body's not able to fight disease when it needs to. And I also saw, a couple of years ago, I went to a presentation, and it was about the fact that African-American women, um, sometimes, more often than not, besides having a very high rate of mortality during childbirth, they also have a high instance of preterm births and low birth weight for their babies. You couldn't figure out why. Why was this happening? Is it because of their level of education? Nope. It happened to women who did, completed high school. It happened to women who pursued higher education. Was it because of finances? Nope. It happened to women who were low income. It happened to women who were high income. Was it where they lived? Nope. It was happening to women in public housing. It was also happening to women who lived in the suburbs or the city. They couldn't figure out what this was coming from. Or what they found out was it was stress levels in their bodies because of the constant, having to deal with racism, like microaggressions. What happens is those chemicals, those stress chemicals, were causing them to go into labor early, and it was causing them, because of that, they had lower weight babies, birth weight babies when they were born. And so that's all, what it boiled down to after looking at all those other factors. So, stress chemicals can really do a job on your body. If you don't get that break from it, if it's a constant thing, like those little microaggressions that they have to face, or if it's just, not being sure, homelessness, or, food scarcity, that type of thing, those things can really wear down your body. And what ends up happening is you get a lot of stress-related diseases. 90% of unplanned doctor visits are related to stress, like muscle tension and neck pains and headaches and high blood pressure problems, obesity, depression. All those things can also happen because of high amounts of stress in your body. So, you know, finding me time is not just about learning to relax. It's also about really taking care of yourself, making sure that you have some downtime from all that stress that could be attacking your bodies. Because when life comes up, you really do want to be rested and focused, just like you expect your doctor to be, or you expect an EMS person when they come to your house. You want to have that focus and that feeling of calmness if you have to deal with something that comes up in your day-to-day life, like your family, just living day to day, going to work, having a partner, taking care of your children if you have them, just taking care of your home, those types of things. You want to be able to be relaxed about that. So me time, it's not selfish or indulgent or vain. And I know that people still have a problem with that. They still, whether it's because they were raised that way or they had, that superhero parent that was a role model for them, they still think that if they're not giving their all to their marriage or their relationship or to their family, you're being selfish and self-indulgent. And that's just not true. It's not about ignoring other people. It's about making sure that your vessel is full so that you do have something to draw from. And, finding time to do this is not a reward. And it doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You don't have to spend any money at all, really, to do this. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be what everybody else is doing or time consuming. It can be little tiny chunks of your day that help you to feel renewed when you're done. So it is important to find what you like. A lot of people I know get that renewal from being with their friends. For me, it's just not that. For me, it's about being alone or having one of the dogs nearby. That's what fills up my vessel and helps me to feel more renewed, is when I can be alone and, not have to take care of anybody or, not have to worry about responsibilities. I don't need a lot of time, but just a little bit can help me. But other people probably think that's, an odd thing like that. I have friends that I was just talking to today because it was our first time going out to lunch together in a real restaurant with real other people around, not wearing a mask. And one of my friends said that it feels so good to her to finally be, with other people. And I'm just this person sitting in the corner thinking, I didn't really need that. But hey, whatever it is that you need to do, make yourself feel better, uh, is, make time for it in your day. Like I said, you don't need a lot of time. It could be one day a week or something that you spend on yourself, or one day a month, or even little tiny increments every single day. And that's kind of what we're going to go through a little bit. Like, how do you find time for this? Because in the end, it's just going to help you grow and become. So also when when your wellness is high and you feel better, your mind is in a better place. Your problem solving skills and decision making abilities are a lot better. People who are under high stress and have desperate critical events come up are working out of desperation, and they make desperate choices. So having healthy coping skills, finding time to feel more calm and focused, like we mentioned before, is just going to help you to be able to make good choices for yourself. Or maybe, possibly, you just need to figure out what's bothering you. What is causing this high level of tension? Why am I constantly always feeling sad or depressed or anxious? What is at the heart of this? And, if you're in that constant state of stress, you're not going to be able to pinpoint it. You're not going to be able to see what the problem is. And then once you do become aware of it, you need to use some good communication skills to ask for help. And there's no weakness in asking for help either. Um, it's just going to help you feel better at the end of the day, and you deserve that help too if you need it. Not everybody, and I know not everybody can have that super hero mentality. And I know a lot of us have seen our parents act that way. Have everything done. Everything was perfect in the house, maybe, or maybe the family ran really smoothly, and we're struggling with that. And there's that's really difficult to live up to, because first of all, you don't really know what was going on with your family of origin, because a lot of times parents didn't tell us. You don't know what it took for them to accomplish all those things that you were seeing as my family having it all together. You don't know what was sacrificed in order to have that in your home. So for us to try to live up to that is just too high of a standard. So we have to be able to recognize what we need, ask for it, and realize that it's not a competition. It's a journey, and we need to be happy in within that journey. And when we're happier, our kids, our family, our partners are going to be a lot happier. So one thing I'd like to touch on with you is those 6 areas of need that every person has. Now, when I read about this, I had heard that you should try to hit every single one of these areas every day. And I don't know, that sounds too hard to me. I don't know that I can do that all the time, especially something like that creative need. I don't know that I can. And so I'm not going to kill myself trying to do that. But when people are depleted, the reason that they don't have anything to give, why their vessel is empty, is because they get burnout. And when you're burned out, you lose those 2 E's, empathy and energy. You may always have the empathy, maybe I say, because sometimes you can lose that. But when you're dealing with your family or your partner, you'll have that empathy there, but the energy to actually do anything is going to be harder to pull out. But some people just get so burned out that they even start to lose their empathy, because they're drawing within themselves, and they're too burned out to deal with anyone. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through those areas. And when we do, I want you to think about, what do? You don't have to say it unless you want to share with us, but think about what you do in all those areas to fulfill that need. What is it that you do? So, the first big one, of course, is physical. We need to do all those things right there. We need to eat healthy. We need to, and sometimes unhealthy. Nothing wrong with ice cream. Nothing wrong with cake, chips. But on the whole, we need to eat healthy, because if you don't, you know how you feel. We need to stay hydrated. We need exercise. We need sleep. And I know that what the recommendation is 7 hours of sleep. But for a lot of reasons, some people can't do that. I know when my kids were little, it was really hard for me to get enough sleep, especially, when they were infants. I didn't even bother to sleep in bed because I didn't want to have to pull myself out of bed every 2 hours to feed, a newborn. So I just slept on a couch with TV on. So it kept me in light sleep. And my mom even said to me, when they're napping, you nap. And I felt like I couldn't. I had the luxury of being an at-home mom when my kids were little. So I felt like I had to clean and I had to get laundry done. And my mom was like, no, stop it, take a nap. And it was really hard for me to do that. And then as I got older, all I wanted to do was have that time when nobody needed me. And I stayed up really late reading books, another stupid thing to do, because I never had enough sleep. And sleep's when your brain, repairs itself, when it deals with everything that you've had to do all day and you have those crazy wild dreams, but you wake up really refreshed. So, try to go to bed a little earlier. And seriously, you don't have to do the whole hour. If you want to make sure you get 1 more or 2 more hours of sleep, start little, 15 minutes, a half an hour. Take out distractions like a TV. TVs can be distracting because it starts to, in your brain, you start to think of your bedroom not as just a place to sleep. It becomes like an entertainment place, just like your front room. So not having a TV in there is helpful. And if you're in the habit of falling asleep with that on, there's other things that you can do, like putting music in your room or some kind of soothing sound, like that app that's called Calm. That's really helpful when I can't sleep. There's like sounds like rain or wind that can help you fall asleep, and not having your cell phone in your room, because that's going to interrupt with sleep too. But try to get as close as you can to 7 hours sleep, even if that means a nap. So think to yourself, what do you do to make sure you get those things? What are you doing to make sure you get exercise or that you get enough sleep? Also, another area is your emotional needs. So giving, receiving love, closeness and attachment to other people, maybe your kids, maybe a partner. For me, it's my animals. Okay. Well, my daughter lives with me. Okay. But she's got her own life. But for me, it's my dogs, and that actually does lower your stress hormones in your body, or the stress chemicals in your body, and can help with the feel good hormone, oxytocin. So they're beneficial. Even just petting dogs can help you feel more calm after a few minutes of doing that. So, I'm not in a relationship except for the one with my children. So, to me, this is part of every day for me. And for me, they're like family. So I do have those closeness and attachments with them. So think to yourself, what do you do? I'm going to explain why I want you to think about this, but what do you do in your life, excuse me, that make sure you get a little bit of that give and receiving love every single day, or that closeness with another person, or that attachment with somebody else or something else, like a dog or a pet? What do you do for those things? Social need also, I don't have to explain to you guys how important this is, having friends and regularly getting together with them. For some people, it's not that big of a deal. You don't have to have a lot of friends, but just one really close one that you can talk to, who will listen to you. Somebody who's, not maybe in your family, outside of your family, you can, tell your problems to. Someone that you know is not going to judge you or tell your confidences to other people or lecture or nag at you. Somebody who's just there to validate how you feel, and somebody you enjoy being with too, that can get your mind off of your problems. So, what do you guys do to do this? Sometimes I have to actually force myself to do this because I am so much of an introvert. But, I'm going to go on vacation with my friends this weekend. And for me, that's always anxiety inducing, but I'm going to force myself to do it because these couple of women that I know are my really good friends. And we all, except for one of them, we all live in different states now. We don't see each other that much. So it's important for us to keep those connections. And it's going to be good for me, I think, in the long run, to be able to see these women and catch up and just sit up at night talking about stuff. And then intellectual stimulation too. I had no idea that this was really important until I was going through my divorce and I was seeing a therapist. And we were talking about, what was missing. And my ex-husband, he is an engineer. And so all day long, he used his brain, and his coping skill was to come home and just relax and fall asleep before dinner. But, I spent the whole day at home. I wanted to talk to somebody. It's very important, for me to watch the news, stay current with events. And I wanted to discuss that with somebody. And, it was hard for him because he needed his rest, resting his brain. He didn't want to, hear all that. And men are hardwired to fix things. So he probably went into, brain, let's fix this mode. And so it wasn't restful for him. So I had to, realize that and find other ways to do that, to stimulate my brain and have those conversations with other people and pick topics apart. And I do that more often now. I have people in my life that will talk about current events and politics with me, and things about science that I find so interesting. So, if you've never considered this before, what do you guys do to stimulate your brain? How do you make sure that that need is being met? And if you're like me, never thought about it, well, you have a whole opportunity to think about, well, how would I like to do this? Maybe it would be joining a book club. I happen to love news and science, but maybe it would just be joining a book club, whether it's virtual or in person, and talking about a topic that everybody's on the same page about. Maybe it's, finding a way in your own way to stimulate your brain. Maybe it's puzzles, or maybe it's computer games, whatever. Those ways that you can think about things outside of what you do every single day that will stimulate you to think differently. Those are always important.
Learning a second language.
Oh yeah, good idea, Joe.
Starting a garden and start reading about gardening and all that kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Growing a vegetable garden. Huh? Learning about the soil and about plants and just.
Yes.
Active learning.
Said that. Yeah, I was trying to think to myself, what are things that you would do? Because I already have my stuff and talk about it. But
a musical instrument.
A musical instrument, yeah, piano, yeah, something like that. Yeah, because if you're learning a musical instrument or a new language, you're using parts of your brain that you probably don't use on a regular basis. And that's making more connections in your brain. And, my thought is, because I do have dementia in my family, that's helpful for your brain to exercise it like that and make those new connections. When I know this sounds weird, but when I can't run anymore, but when I was a runner, I used to try different routes and then find my way back without looking on Google Maps, because I would spend my time like thinking, where could I go that's different? How am I going to find my way back? Even just taking my route backwards, because I would spend an hour running. And so you're looking at the same stuff over and over again, but doing that route backwards also, I heard, can also stimulate your brain because you're not following the same markers all the time. So there's lots of ways if you really want to try to stimulate that if you've your brain if you've never done that before. And then there's spirituality, which doesn't necessarily have to be a church or a temple or a mosque. Spirituality can be just being concerned with the human condition and wanting to reach out to other people. Helping other people can be a way to be spiritual. Thinking about how other people are and being empathic about like how can you be part of finding social justice or helping other people in your community, or reaching out to somebody that might need help. Those are spiritual too ways. And if you've never thought of that before and you don't go to church, how do you think about those things? What do you do for spirituality? How do you help others? And then now the last area is creativity, expressing yourself. And I never thought of this either, that it's something that you need to do because I don't feel like I'm artistic. I can't draw, I can't write music, but it doesn't matter. It could be the way you dress, your sense of style. It could be your culture, displaying your culture in the way you dress can also be creative if not everybody dresses the same way that you do. Or, any other way that you cut your hair or wear tattoos. That's all creativity. Were you going to say something, Joe?
Yeah, how about changing your furniture around? Getting some artwork.
Yeah. Getting some artwork, yes. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have thought of changing your furniture around. I would not have thought that was creative. But that's
it kind of changes your environment, it might stimulate you. You walk in, you see it differently, you feel good about it. Hang some different artwork up.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Because I lived with the same bedroom for almost 30 years and or 20 years, and I painted it this past summer. My daughter and I did. And it does. You walk in there, I changed everything on the walls. So I guess you're right. Yeah, it does do that. And the reason I wanted you to think about those things, how do you do those things, is because that can lend itself to your level of stress. So, for instance, if intellectual stimulation is important to you, one of the needs that you need to fulfill every day, how do you practice it? What do you do? That's why I wanted you guys to think about it. And I want you to think how much you value those things. And when I say value, I mean, how much do you do it? So for instance, when I was a runner, I valued it highly. So I did it, at least 5 days a week. Once I wasn't able to run anymore, I could tell, not just in physically way that I felt, but the emotional way that I felt. It was very depressing for me not to be able to run until I found out there was a condition that I had that stopped me from doing it. But, or even just being creative. To some people, that's really important. My sister is an artist, and she gets antsy when she's not making something out of, painting something, or she makes those dioramas. And she loves making all those little tiny itty bitty details and finding different ways to put them in there. If she's not doing that, which she didn't for a while in the process of moving, she felt antsy and was looking for a way to, do that, use her creativity. So let me just ask you guys, do you feel that you are practicing the things that you value? Are you doing those on a regular basis? Does anybody want to share?
All of them or one?
One of them if you want, or all of them if you want to. Go ahead.
You guys talked about moving furniture. I've moved my furniture 5 times since January.
Oh,
So,
COVID, yeah.
yes. So that's what I'm on.
Well, so at least you're doing it, you know, you're practicing and value, you know, if you value it highly and you're doing it, being creative, that's important. Were you going to say something too, Joe?
Yeah, it's almost those two questions are almost like the work-life balance. Like I value physical fitness and taking care of myself and exercising. But how often do I practice it? Not much because of whatever excuse I can come up with, right? So I have this high value of physical, but I don't do it as much. Same thing with social. I think I should nurture some of my relationships more, but I don't. And then that's when you find yourself kind of feeling a little lazy, a little unmotivated, and you kind of start not doing those things.
Yeah.
So if you incorporate those, so if I started exercising again, my mood would go up. If I nurtured some of my social life, my mood would go up, and it would all improve my mental health.
And so I think that's why so many people had a rough time during the quarantine, and why there was such a rise in mental health issues, because people valued those things, but they weren't practicing them on a regular basis. And so that's where that, like you're saying, Joe, that unbalance comes in, and you get burned out. And, those 2 E's I talked about, energy and empathy, slip away. And you do find yourself getting depressed and not feeling up to par like you usually do. So, how can you find time to do those things? What things, you have to know what you want to do too in each of those areas. What's important to you, even if you start off with one thing, just one thing, and try to practice it every day, you'll start to find time in order to do those things. So here's some barriers. Parenting, oh, my kids take up a lot of my time. Like I said, you might have got that superhero mentality from seeing what your parents did every day. Well, it was a different time. My mom stayed home. I had that luxury for a little while, but then I had to go back. But my mom stayed home all the time. At that time in the 60s and the 70s, you were able to have one person go out and have a job. And my dad was a blue collar worker. He was able to go out and have one job, and we were able to live on that. But you don't have to live up to those requirements. Part of your kids being happy is when they see their parents happy. And so you also have to look out for yourself, and you have to believe that you deserve that time, your own time to heal. And a lot of people don't. You have to fight those messages that you hear in your head, especially if they're coming from you. Oh, this is one more thing to do. I don't have time for this. Well, why don't you have time? Challenge that. What would be so bad about it? Do you really have to sacrifice that much in order to find a few minutes a day to take care of yourself? And if something does get sacrificed, could it be something small that you might have to give up? Maybe you're not going to spread yourself out for every single person in your family and outside of your family too. I remember the time when I just had enough, and I had to start saying, no, I can't do this anymore. I remember it was my parish priest. I was already heavily doing stuff at my church, and he asked me to do one more thing, and I couldn't do it. I just said, I can't do this. And it was something that would take me out of my comfort zone too. I was literally doing a lot, in the church and also the religious education. So I finally had to tell him no. And he was just beside himself. Are you telling me no? He said. Apparently nobody ever told this guy no. And I said, yeah, I cannot do this and do the job properly. And he wouldn't talk to me anymore. So of course, because I'm Catholic, all that guilt. But I had to say, hey, I got to take this time. I I can't spread myself that thin for every single person and not have time for myself. So I really had to challenge that, you know, because I grew up in that atmosphere of always doing for others all the time. So being Catholic and being female. So yeah, I didn't need those excuses anymore. I needed to challenge them and change it. It could be because you don't know about yourself. What do you like? You know, and if you have that guilt about taking care of yourself, you may never have looked and saw what is exactly that you need. What do you like to do? And so you might have to work on yourself a little bit. And for some people, that's kind of scary. You know, there are some people that will define themselves by taking care of a partner or their children. And I get that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's okay to be alone. It's okay to focus on yourself. And then again, you know, too, you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. If you want to go out and buy that Batman suit, then you do go ahead and buy it. You know, that's your way of taking care of yourself. And you're the only one that has to judge whether it's okay or not, whether it's appropriate. And this is something that's also very important. I really struggle with. When I went through my divorce, like I said, I was seeing a therapist, you know, to figure out what I needed, one of those self-examination times. And one of the things that she talked to me was that told me about was that I have a negative thoughts a lot. You know, the average person on this slide says 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative, 80% of them. So what she had me do, which was really weird, I thought, but I did it anyway, because part of solving a problem is becoming aware of it, right? So she said to me, every time you have a negative thought, I want you to write it down. Don't read it till the end of the day, but I want you just to write it down. Write down when you said it and what you said. So I did that. I tried not to look at it or study it. I just, you know, pulled the little thing out of my pocket, wrote it down, put it back in my pocket. And when I went back at the end of the day, I was astonished at the things that I said to myself, you know, the negative things. And I probably did a whole lot of good things that day. You know, I remember that day I had to go and teach a parenting class at a high school in South Warren, Fitzgerald High School. And, you know, I did that. And that could be a challenge in itself. But I got through the day and the kids were interested, you know, but I spent a lot of time with negative thoughts in my head. And so to turn those around, especially if you've spent a long time doing that, is not always easy, you know, but you have to replace some of those thoughts, and it takes a while. It's not going to happen overnight. You know, instead of I can't do this, I can do it. I know I can do this. My thing was, there's two that I always say in my head. I'll land on my feet. I always do, even though I don't always, but I do land on my feet is more often than not. And the other one that I always say is one thing at a time, one job at a time, because I get all anxious about, stress myself out trying to get everything done, and I can't. So I have to like, all right, calm down, one thing at a time. I can get this done. You know, it's not going to take that long. Just take a deep breath and start over. So there's a lot on here. You know, there's probably many, many more that you can think of. But it's, you know, just think of what do you usually say in your head and turn it around. Instead of I can't do hard things, I can do hard things. It might take me a little bit longer, but I can do this. I can do anything for a half an hour if I don't have to do it the rest of my life. There's abundance around me. I just have to look for it sometime. I have to pinpoint it. And even if you're struggling, you can still say, right now I feel lost and overwhelmed, but I'm going to find a way to get where I need to be. I'll find a way through this. I might be feeling low and sad, but I'll feel happy again. And if I don't, then I'll find help. I'll get help because I'm worthy. I deserve to get some help and crawl out of this, you know, darkness that I'm in right now. Even though I might be afraid, I know that I'm strong and I can do hard things. So it's just a matter of looking at your thoughts and deciding what you need to say to yourself instead. And like I said, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while, and that's okay too. You know, it's not a race. It's a journey. And you know, you guys have heard of love languages before. You can go on the internet and you can Google the love language quiz. And once you do, it applies to a lot of areas in your life, especially what you do for yourself. You know, do you need affirmations like we just talked about? Do you need positive self-talk? Do you need yourself to be your biggest cheerleader? How about acts of service? You know, give yourself what you need when you need it instead of putting it off to take care of somebody else. Once in a while, give to yourself. You know, maybe it's serving a higher power. Maybe sometimes it is doing something for somebody else. How about gifts? Investing in yourself, buying that Batman suit, spending money on your hobbies, or thinking of ways to give yourself gifts once in a while. Or time, spending time on the things you love, making time to read every night. I go to bed a half hour early so that I can read for a half an hour before I go to bed. That helps me to get that sleep, and it also gives me that time away from the TV when I can wind down. Because if I go through a routine of taking a bath, going to bed a half hour early, reading my book, it helps me to get to sleep faster and longer. Having solitude, even if you're a people person, it's still good to have some solitude, spend some time by yourself, or occasionally taking yourself out. It's not that hard. I do it a lot. Well, I will be doing it even more now that, you know, we're going, we don't have as much. Wait a minute, I gotta turn this off. Sorry, you guys. There, sorry about that. You know, going out by myself now that the quarantine is over. I intend on doing that. I did it before. It was hard the first time, but you know, it's okay. I got used to it. Or is your love language touch, which might come from exercises or yoga, might be massage, or you know, manicures, pedicures, that type of thing. And one last thing, learning to love your body, no matter what it looks like, instead of trying to live up to other people's standards or society standards, appreciating the fact that what you are is okay just the way it is. So learn how to relax your mind and body. I don't have time to do this. Well, you know what? You can find time, because the average person watches 5 hours of TV a day and spends about, I would say, probably more than 2.5 hours on social media. I probably think it's probably more than that. But, you know, you don't need tons of time. It doesn't have to be time consuming. You can still watch 4.5 hours of TV or 2 hours of social media. But there's little ways that you can find to take care of yourself. So if you've only got about 5 or 10 minutes, sit on the porch with a cup of coffee. And I love doing this in the fall and spring and summer. And I get up anyway early just because of my animals. They wake me up early. And I started to really appreciate the mornings because it's so quiet. Sometimes I'll take them for a walk, you know, as soon as the sun comes up. That's beautiful. It sets my whole day if I can do that. But just, even if you only have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you sit on the porch, start your day by having a cup of coffee and relaxing, or call a friend and chat for 5 minutes. You don't have to organize something. You don't have to have any work that's the center. You know, don't have an agenda. Just go in there and say how you doing and listen to their story. Talk about yours. And always spend some time, especially if you have a job where you sit in front of a computer. You know, set your watch to go off so that every 20 minutes and spend about 5 minutes just walking around. You know, CARE has lots of stairs. We have an elevator, but there's also 3 flights. And I don't use the elevator if I can, because I have arthritis, but if it's not bothering me, I make sure I take the stairs because it just gets me moving and it gives me my exercise for the day. It's good for you. It helps your brain too. It gets all that blood flowing, gets oxygen in your lungs, get your brain flowing again. So it's good for you. Take a dog for a walk if you've got about 10 minutes. You can walk. I mean, dogs usually require walk every day, and that's one of the other reasons that they help us reduce stress is that, they are helpful for us because they get us out walking. But maybe you can't spend 30 minutes on a walk. So break it up into 10 minutes 3 times a day. Go in the morning, go at lunch, go at night after dinner. That's going to help you to digest your meal anyway. It's fun to go with a dog because watching them, keeps your eyes moving around. And that was another thing that a therapist told me one time. When you're out walking around, when your eyes are moving back and forth like that, they found that it gives you a sense of well-being. So just watching my dog makes me present in the moment because they're such screwballs. They do the weirdest things. And my one dog is very well trained, so I don't usually have a leash on him, and I'm always watching him. And, it makes me present in the moment. Put on your Spotify, listen to some music for 5 minutes if you can, or just sit and breathe deeply, do your meditation and do that 4 square breathing. Can you describe that, Joe? What's that 4 square breathing?
Yeah, we did it in some previous presentations, but you're inhaling for a count of 4, then you hold for a count of 4, then you exhale for a count of 4, then you hold for a count of 4. Then you repeat that, 2 or 3 times. When I do it, I kind of get a head rush because I'm not used to the oxygen changing like that, but you can do it 2 or 3 times and then breathe normally.
Yeah, before you told me about that, I used to just take a big, huge, gulp of air and hold it, to a count of 20. And sometimes I could hear my, heart beating in my ears, but that made me feel calm to do that and then let it out, a big, huge, lung full of air, especially if I was going to do like public speaking when I first started, that would help to calm me down. And so I did it whenever I was feeling like, full of angst or anxiety. Because sometimes that 4 square breathing to me is too much thinking about it. I just want to take a big breath and hold it. So whatever, as long as you're breathing deeply, that's the point of it, right, Joe?
Yeah, I actually took a webinar yesterday, and the guy was talking about therapy and mental health and stuff. And he says, if you take a quick breath or take a slow breath in and then a quick breath out, and if you saw somebody do that, you would think something's wrong with that person. Like, oh my goodness, what's going on with that person? But if you took a really quick breath in and then a slow breath out, you would think that person's pretty relaxed. So he just did the opposite. So take that breath in and a slow breath out kind of helps you regulate your heart rate and your breathing and your respiration.
Well, I don't know how I feel about that. Why do I care what people think?
Well, it's talking about the way your body acts when you let your breath out really fast.
Oh, okay.
You're like, something's off with that person, like he's in distress or she's anxious or something's going on. But a really slow exhale is a calm peace. You would never think something's going on with that person or something like that.
Yeah. I could see it.
Something that our colleague Teresa said also was breathing through your mouth triggers our survival, fight or flight, but breathing through your nose is kind of typical, peaceful, relaxing.
Really?
Yeah, if you inhale, like when a child has a temper tantrum and they breathe in through their mouth, they're escalated. But if you breathe through your nose, it's more peaceful and your brain is in I don't know what, more calm state.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. I had no idea.
Mouth breathing, distress. Nose breathing, calm.
Calm. Okay. If you got 15 to 30 minutes, read one chapter of a book or look at a magazine that you've wanted to for some time. Don't take the time for. Work on a project because you enjoy it, not because someone needs it. You know, my ex-husband used to do that all the time. It drove me crazy because he would, he was a model, he still is, I guess, a model railroader, and he was constantly building things. You know, like I would always say to him, why don't you just go to the hobby store and buy it? You know, but he wanted to take, you know, the time to buy a piece of plywood and break it up into tiny pieces, measure it, break it up. But it was a project, it helped him to calm down after, you know, working he used to work at GM. And after all of that, all week long, he would want to come home and just relax. That was his way. But see, I couldn't imagine that. I'd rather just go out and buy it. But for him, it helped him to feel more centered. So I thought that was pretty good. Find a nearby park and go for a brisk walk. And sometimes if I'm feeling really anxious, I'll do that thing that they tell people with anxiety to do. And I always get the formula wrong, but it probably doesn't matter. You know, I always go by like, what are 4 things I can see? What are 3 things I can hear? What are 2 things I can smell? And that's always really hard. And then there's like 1 thing that I can feel. Okay. And it's just that idea of bringing you into the moment and stop thinking about what's going all around you, but just to like hyper focus on one thing. What do I hear? Birds. And what do you know, what else do I hear? Cars going by. It just it brings you more into the moment than worrying about things outside, things that you can't really control. And the funny thing is, I have 2 dogs. One of them is a hound dog. She's the one that has to be, she's got a little hound in her. And she's the one that always has to be on a leash. And she's also the one that has to smell every single blade of grass and every stone that other dog has peed on. Or no, she just has to, and it used to drive me crazy. And I was walking to be healthy and to, you know, de-stress after a long day when I was driving to care and back out all the time. And then so what I decided to do is change the way I think about it. And instead of getting mad at her for stopping and smelling every perpendicular object, I would say to myself, okay, whenever I have to stop, I'm going to close my eyes and take a nice deep breath and just hear what's going on around me, whether it was birds or kids laughing. And I found, you know, does it always work? No, but it doesn't matter, because if it works most of the time, it's helping me to feel more calm and not get all full of anxiety. Because, you know, once you're on that treadmill at work and you're, you know, then it spreads into your personal life. Got to take the dog for a walk. Not got to get home and make dinner. No, you don't. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Relax. And so stopping and closing my eyes for a second while she's sniffing around and, you know, listening to birds or kids laughing or just looking around if the leaves are changing or flowers are coming out, it helped change my point of view and my area of focus. Another good thing is if you like taking a bath, soak in the tub. If you have small children, make sure your partner's around so that you're not getting, you know, knocking on the door every 5 minutes asking for something. And don't forget to take something with you, like a book. This says a glass of water or wine, but you know, even taking a book in there and reading can be helpful and relaxing if you like to read. If you've got more time, like up to an hour, you can get a facial, a massage, and a manicure and a pedicure. You can do it to yourself, have someone do it for you. My daughter gave me a pedicure last night because I'm going on vacation. That was wonderful. I haven't had that done in years. Take a nap, go to a class that you've always wanted to do that's not related to work or your kids or anything, just for you. Like Joe said, learn a new language, take a piano class or a violin class or something like that that's going to help you have some fun and learn something new. And schedule things with friends. So, you know, if you find a walking partner Or if you're male and you want to schedule a night out with your friends, but commit to it early in the week. Schedule it with your friends and honor that commitment. Maybe you can't go every week, but you can go once a month and get away from everybody and just laugh and have a good time with your friends. Those things are important. So last but not least, we have some resources for you. CARE, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Community Mental Health, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline if you need that. The Right Connections just has tons of resources on it for anything that you need. You just, have to look for the subject and you'll find it in your community. That's a great place to go for resources. MISD.net, just connection.misd.net. And here's some more. These are really Joe's things. So if you can add anything in here, Joe, he gave me these resources. I don't know, about I do know about my strengths, but what's Mood Gym? What is that?
I just found Mood Gym. There's a fee for it, so I didn't look too far into it, but I heard good things about it. It's kind of just online support. You can meditate. They give you activities to do. It's just like going to the gym for your mind.
Nice. What's Headspace?
Headspace is also the same thing. This is a free one, though. You go to I think it's on Netflix, too. You go to Netflix and you type in Headspace, and it
Really?
takes you there. Yeah, it shows you all kinds of movies, videos. They have meditation on there and breathing exercises and just everything that has to do with the mind. Check it out.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. It's animated, so they'll play an animated view. They'll have a bubble, the different colors they go up, and the bubble retracts for breathing, and it's simulated, and it's really cool stuff.
That's wonderful. Well, if anybody would like a list of these, let Tony know, and I can, send this to you, send it to her, and she can send it to you guys, because we have a lot, this page and this one. So if anybody wants this, let me know, or you can take a picture of it, with your phone. That's great too. But we're willing to share if you need that resources, or call CARE. CARE is for anybody in any county to call if you don't know where to start with mental health issues or anything. Just call there and ask, and they can help you find what you need, resource. So thanks, everybody. There's the CARE phone number if you need it, 541-CARE.
Do you guys have any comments, questions, anything you want to share before we wrap up?
Okay, somebody wrote, somebody wrote about those automatic, oh, Joe did, this too shall end. I can't see those, Joe, when I'm doing a
Yeah,
poll.
I know.
No storm lasts forever. That's a good one.
We teach kids in school, middle school and high school. I used to go and do life skills, and I would tell, don't let the ants crawl in your head. The ants are automatic negative thoughts. I said, crush those ants. Don't listen to them.
Yeah. Somebody said today's National Wine Day. Let's take that into consideration. Well, thanks, everyone. If you think of any questions or need any resources, just let us know.
All right, then we will wrap this up, and we'll see you guys on Thursday. Teresa, you won't be here, right?
Right, I'm going on vacation, so yeah, I won't be here.
Well, you have a safe trip. Thank you so much, and we will talk over the summer once you get back.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody, for joining. You guys have a great day.
You too.